You're listening to episode 50 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's episode, you'll hear from Allyn Amerongen all about how chronic illness and pain can lead to more resilience, a deeper faith, and a greater understanding of grace. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm your host as always. And on today's episode, we have a really interesting conversation about how chronic illness and chronic pain can actually become your superpower. I know it sounds a little bit hard to believe that dealing with a chronic illness could be something that actually creates more resilience and more enjoyment in life. But my guest today has experience with a 15-year chronic illness, and she's only 26. So most of her life has been spent with dealing with this chronic illness, specifically chronic pain. And she's actually used that pain experience to create a life that she loves and to pursue her purpose. Allyn Amerongen is an Oregon native whose unique history of chronic pain and illness has shaped her beliefs, actions, and most importantly, her mindset. As an active member in the personal development community, Allyn utilizes her unique toolkit to work with clients and help them achieve the life they envision for themselves. Allyn helps her clients do this despite chronic illness and despite pain that they're experiencing, and that's why her business is called Doing It Despite. So I'm super excited to have Allyn on the show today. She's got a great story and a great perspective to share for anyone struggling with chronic pain or chronic illness. And it's just something that I think can give us all a better perspective on dealing with challenges and dealing with things that are outside of our control. So without further ado, here is Allyn. All right, everybody. I am so excited to have with me on the podcast today, Allyn Amerongen. How are you doing today, Allyn?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Good. And it's funny, we were chatting about this before we started recording, that we had originally booked this interview like months ago, so much earlier that Allyn's actually got some like new branding and everything with her business. So I'm actually glad that we had to delay it, that you can chat about all the new things that you're doing in the world. So for those of the listeners who don't know you or haven't heard your story, I would love to hear your story of developing chronic pain and how that has shaped your life to this point.
Yeah, for sure. I started having pain in my back around age 11. So very young to be having pain of any sort. And I, was too young for them to make any kind of definitive diagnosis at that time. They were just kind of throwing things at the wall. Throughout my whole journey, it's a common theme that none of my testing showed any real red flags or significant results of any kind. So, I went through middle school, high school, all that time. My pain was just ramping up. I had mono. At that time, I had some different injuries to my Achilles from soccer, and things were just kind of piling up. Nothing was resolving. Everything was getting worse. I would get sick. And then go down really hard. Like my brother would be sick for a week and then I'd get it and be sick for 2 weeks, but way worse than he would. And so that just became kind of the theme of things. And never really had an answer at all. I went up and down. I'm based in Oregon, so I went up and down West Coast looking for answers. And everyone just kind of came to the conclusion that I was too young to be having this pain and that I should grow out of it eventually. So come time for college, we were just kind of in a management phase. They were trying to get me to a point where I could manage, go out of state for college, and, live a happy life at that point. And I went to college and completely tanked within about a week or so. I was on some pretty intensive drug combinations and they did not interact well. I had some bad reactions to those, to where I went into a huge spiral of depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all of that stuff. And that was kind of the big kickoff for what would really shape me, I'd say, with my whole journey. And it morphed into, I ended up moving home, finished my semester, moving home and everything, and was able to get some more answers. But throughout going through all of this at such a young age, it definitely shapes you. And I think if anyone's dealing with a chronic illness, it's going to shape you in some way, shape, or form. But when you're going through it at a younger age as well, you're trying to figure out who you even are as a person, mixed with going through all this. It really compounds things a lot. And I felt like I was kind of on a fast track to having to figure things out and learn who I was, I'd say. So in some ways it was a blessing, and in some ways it was kind of a curse at sometimes, but I just learned to use it as a gift and a tool to learn things about myself quicker than a lot of my peers were. And it ended up becoming such a gift that in a weird way I wouldn't change for the world, but back then it was definitely a tough thing to go through for sure.
Mm-hmm. And remind me, how old are you now?
26.
26. So this has been, how old did you say you were? 11 when this started?
Yep. So over half my life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know like a day without it, really. Honestly, people ask like, what is it like? What was your life like before? I think I was just filling out a questionnaire not too long ago. Like what's your day like without it? And I truly do not remember. I mean, my life was wonderful before and it's wonderful now, but it just is my story. It's like part of me now.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that you're still actively dealing with from like a symptom perspective?
For sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's morphed a little bit. I have different symptoms. Things became quite a bit worse coming out of college, to where they were really affecting me with brain fog, kind of more widespread body pain, things like that. And I realized that was not, how I could live the rest of my life being so young. So yeah, I'm still managing. And I believe I will be for the rest of my life, if not a long time, but yes, it is still around today.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so many people that deal with chronic illness, I feel like it's almost this two options. You either have the option of kind of just saying, well, I guess this is the way things are, and not really live the life you want to live because of it. Or again, say, okay, I'm accepting this the way it is, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop living my life because of it. And it sounds like you're really passionate about helping people make that second choice when they have an illness or, chronic pain, that kind of thing, where I'm sure you're still looking for answers and solutions. And it's not like you're just giving up on yourself, but it sounds like you've accepted the possibility that this could be something that you always have to deal with.
For sure. Yeah. I think that that's probably the main difficulty, I think, in dealing with a lot of these illnesses, is that not only are they chronic, but 9 times out of 10, they're what we call invisible, right? So you not only can you not see them, but what I've come to find a lot of times is in this category of illnesses, diagnosing them is pretty difficult or can be pretty ambiguous for a lot of people. And that's what I found a lot in my own journey is, it's so gray. It's not black and white. It's not you broke a bone or you didn't break a bone. And that's where I think a lot of people, including myself, have a very hard time finding an answer or coping with not having an answer. And I think that that's where you can really get stuck in the mentality of victim or becoming more depressive, because that is terrible. To not have an answer is terrible. To not think that, you know, it's going to get better is terrible, but you can't live your life like that. That's just going to make things worse, in my opinion. And to be able to flip it a little bit and have some form of hope, or some, you know, some form of the idea that this could get better, or even if it's not going to get better, what can you do with what you have to make it, you know, a joyful life with what you have left. And so that's what, I'm very passionate about that. I've spent many of days and hours in waiting rooms and in treatment rooms with people with chronic illnesses. And it's quite interesting the way of life that we all live. And the perspective that you carry will totally dictate, you know, the success in treating your illness, but also just the level of happiness and joy that you have in your life.
Mm-hmm. And I know that, you know, I've been looking through your social media and your website and all the things that you're talking about, especially with this, this, I don't know if I would say new business. It sounds like it's kind of like a new brand identity that you've established in the last couple months. It sounds like one of the big missions or focuses that you have is the idea of shifting your mindset that can help you live a life that you want to live, and is really a life that you're choosing despite chronic pain, chronic illness. So what are some of the changes that you've made to your mindset, or that you feel like are really important for people to make to their mindset, that do allow you to live the life that you want to live?
For a long time, I would look at my illness as something that, you know, I labeled it as an I can't. Like I can't do the things that my friends are doing. I can't do the things that I want to do. I can't do the things that I've always dreamed of. And that is super impactful on your brain, because not only are you thinking in terms of I can't, but then that's starting to impact you in any way. When you look to go and do something, you look to go and start something new, you're going to say, no, I can't do that. You just start to write off everything as an I can't. And so throughout going through my illness, I started to pick up on little things where I realized, like, I actually can do this. And a lot of times it was because of my illness. I realized that it had really kind of prepared me in an odd way to be a big time fighter in life, not only physically, but also mentally. And I feel like that totally got me from the I can't to the I can. And it's weird. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it also is the biggest blessing to have walked through that, because it forces you to realize what your body can go through and also what your mind can go through. And when you go to the deepest, darkest place and you're like, I cannot come out of this, and then you do, you realize that you're powerful beyond measure, and you're powerful, you know, to the most ultimate and extreme extent, and that you can do anything. You might not be able to do it in the same way that people do their things. It might not look the same, but you can still do it. And I think that that is a big mindset shift, in realizing that it's kind of like a little superpower having your chronic illness, and it prepares you for a lot of things. And I think I've recognized that a lot as I've kind of stepped into adulthood, and recognizing that I'm prepared for a lot of other things that my peers and my friends aren't, even just in terms of, you know, advocating for myself in the medical world and scheduling my own appointments and handling all of that and navigating the medical system, and even just knowing your body and handling your body when things get bad and all of that stuff. That's just your little superpower. And so if you can make that little mindset shift, and it takes time, but soon, like, you're going to start to kind of covet your little gift a little bit, I think. And that's a big one for me. And I see that in clients a lot, that when you start to recognize the power inside of you, it kind of unleashes things a little bit.
That's awesome. And you're not that much younger than me. I'm 33. So, 26, what is that? 7 years. And I'm curious, because I do feel like 7 years is a big enough time difference that I'm trying to think back to when I was in my mid 20s. And I feel like my life was like so different than what it is now. And lots of good changes that have happened since then. Sometimes things that, life was a little easier in my mid-20s. How do you think your mindset compares to your friends or a lot of the people that you interact with that are in their mid-20s, especially this year? I feel like this year obviously has been very tough on a lot of people. I'm curious if you feel like you have maybe handled this year differently than your peers, or do you just in general handle challenges differently than a lot of your peers do because of the experience that you had with your chronic illness?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few points on that I would touch on. One being that I've learned to love downtime and love the slow times. And I think that is not necessarily aligned with people my age. I think that we come from a society that's go, go, go all the time. And so I know that a lot of my peers have had a hard time slowing down, right? Or just not being able to go out and not being able to have the freedom to do social activities. And so to me, it's a gift. I love not having that pressure or feeling like I need to go out and do all these things, whereas they're having a hard time not doing that. And so I think that that's a big difference. And I think part of that comes from the fact that I've spent years in bed. And for a lot of that time, I was very insecure. I was very down on the fact that everyone was out doing things I couldn't do. But on the flip side, over years, I gained confidence in myself and the fact that I love alone time. I love being alone now. And so I think that that's a bit of a difference. I'm not saying that they're in any way insecure, but I also think that in growing older and knowing your body, there's something to be said about learning to be alone with yourself, learning, to enjoy the quiet time and finding peace in that, and not always feeling the need to be surrounded by others, and not feeling like your worth is aligned with how many people you're hanging out with and how often you're spending time with them. And I know that a lot of the women in the chronic illness and men in the chronic illness world experience that. It can be very, very isolating. But just like I said earlier, that can also be kind of your superpower. Like, we kind of joke that we're all thriving during this time because we are kind of made for it. So I think that that's kind of one of the big ones that I would say is just the difference in attitude towards that. And I also think that when you have a chronic illness, you have the mindset that you can endure also. And so with a chronic illness, you don't know when it's ending. You know that it probably isn't ending. And same with, COVID and what's going on. There's no deadline saying December 1st, it's ending. And so,
much as we all wish, right?
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. And so I think that that's another one as well, that just having the mindset to endure and the positivity to wake up each day and keep pushing, even though you don't really know what you're pushing towards or when it's going to end. But those would be the two I'd think about.
Mm-hmm. This year, and like I said, I'm living a very different lifestyle than I was living in my mid-20s. I definitely remember the whole going out and going to bars and, just having fun and socializing and kind of taking advantage of having less responsibilities maybe. And it's hard to imagine what this year would be like going through it in your mid-20s. And I can definitely see why someone in your position that has developed that ability to kind of not have to be in control of everything and understand that you're actually not in control. Because I think that's one of the things that comes up for a lot of people is realizing now, hey, we were never in control. It just kind of felt a little bit more like we were in control before this year. So just having been through that experience leading up to this year, I'm assuming you're not having that same level of shock that a lot of other people are having. Which again, we're not saying that the goal is to have a chronic illness, but I think the whole point is to say that people that do have chronic illnesses can use that as an experience to build resilience and build, the ability to be comfortable being alone or comfortable having downtime, that kind of thing, because a lot of times you don't have the option of not taking downtime. So, and I'm curious because I think a lot of what you talk about on social media, from what I've seen, obviously I have not seen every single one of your posts, but some of the research I was doing before our talk today, I feel like it applies to people that aren't dealing with chronic illness? Because you mentioned kind of stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone and doing things despite maybe having some reservations or fears around it. And I really feel like so many people struggle so much with letting fear get in the way of them pursuing their goals. I mean, that's one of the main reasons this podcast is called Fed and Fearless, is because, one of my goals is to help women especially overcome fear in their life so that they can live the life that they want to live and they're not making all their decisions based in fear. So why do you think that so many people, especially young people, because I see it a lot more in my clients that are in their 20s, early 30s, why do you think so many people struggle to pursue their dreams and their goals because of that fear that they're experiencing?
In my opinion, I think it all comes down to failure. I think that we're afraid to fail because we're afraid to look bad, and we're afraid just to fall flat on our face. You're not ever taught that it's okay to fail. We're always taught about winning and getting the trophy and all that stuff, but not really ever taught about just trying and seeing what happens. I've really shifted. I'm what I call a recovering perfectionist. I'm very type A, love everything being perfect, and have had to really let go of a lot of that in dealing with a chronic illness, because 9 times out of 10, my energy doesn't sustain, the level that I want to perform at, or brain fog, all that stuff will come into play. And so I've had to really lean into the fact that as long as I'm trying, I'm not failing. As long as I'm showing up, I'm not failing. As long as I'm getting out of bed every day, I'm not failing. And so I think if people can just redefine their, version or definition of failure, then that can really help them with fear and just help them to try or to pursue whatever it is that you want, right? Because I think at the end of the day, everyone is just afraid of, other people's opinions of themselves, or how they're looking to others or their peers or any of that stuff. If you weren't, then you would be doing whatever, because you wouldn't be worried about it. You would just be, owning up to yourself and not worrying about what others thought. And so, yeah, I think if you can redefine that, then that makes a big, huge difference. I know it has for myself and for clients, that if you change it around and if you look at it like that, as if you just are putting in the effort, then you're truly never failing. I mean, the only time you're failing is if you're not trying, if you're not showing up, and that kind of can get rid of that fear. And for me, it's like, oh crap, then I have fear if I'm not trying. Then I get hard on myself if I'm not trying, and it can totally reshape that and put it around on yourself. And I think that can shift things a lot for people.
Well, I would think even with people with chronic illness and chronic pain, that there are probably some days where they can't get out of bed, and that's okay. It's not that if it's really not possible, that you're a bad person or somehow you're a failure if you don't get out of bed that day. But I'm sure, having had the experience where it sounds like there were days that you couldn't get out of bed because of the pain you were in, and I'm sure that really changes your perception of what a good day is versus some people who haven't had that experience. They do have these really, really high bars for themselves that if they don't reach that kind of unrealistic expectation, that they do get down on themselves. And again, I think it's really great if we can learn this stuff without having to have really hard experiences. But as you mentioned before, the people who are having those hard experiences can use that as a kind of faster way to get to the lessons that I think a lot of times people that don't have those more severe struggles, they take a lot longer to realize that, or they have to get themselves into a really bad situation because of their choices, not because of something that just happened to them and wasn't actually related to anything that they did. So, I think that concept of failure kind of being defined however you want to define it. And if it's defined as long as I try, or as long as I at least make an effort, then there is no failure, then I think that's a really good mindset shift to have. So I saw this I think this was on your website, and you were talking to the kind of client you work with and the people that you connect with in your business. And you said that there's maybe some people out there who feel like their chronic illness is running their life. So what would you say to someone who did feel like their life was being completely defined by their chronic illness?
Yeah, I definitely see that a lot. And I'm so passionate about it because I have felt that way too. And I think, mainly where I'm coming from with that is a lot of times I see the inability to hold down the job that you want, or the inability to keep the plans that you want, or the inability to, go out on date night with your husband, or, you just feel like every time you go to do something that you want, your illness pops up and there's a symptom or there's a flare or there's something like that pops up. And that really starts to affect people, not only physically, obviously, but mentally, in the fact that you feel like you can't get a leg up, and that totally sucks you down into this hole, and that puts you in victim mode, right? And then that is no go. Like, you do not want to go into victim mode, obviously. And so what I always want to kind of work through with them is figuring out, like, who do you want to be? What are your non-negotiables throughout your day? And I have this whole exercise that I like to walk through with people, but figuring out, like, re-establishing who they are as a person, because I think that you can get so lost in your illness, right? You're like, oh, I need to get up. I need to take my 3 pills, and I need to do my stretch. And then I need to, drink my glass of water, and then I need to do this. And it's this whole list of things that people have told you that you need to do. And it's wonderful, and you do need to do it, but you also need to do things that make you feel good. You need to fill up your own cup. And so there needs to be some form of a balance, and it can be very, very small, but as long as you're, filling in a few little, it can be like 5 minutes, but as long as you're filling in a few little gaps throughout your day with something, you meditate or whatever makes you happy, you go, throw the ball for your dog. There's going to be those little things that can be huge, just mindset boosters for you, and can slowly just make you feel like you're living on your own terms. And eventually you're going to build back up to where you're like, yeah, this is my life. And it's not like some magic wand to where, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have these flares and I can go do this 5K or anything. But slowly you're going to be like, this is my life, and I am like actually living it and doing the things I want, as opposed to feeling like you're living your life based on the treatment plan that your doctor handed you.
Do you have any practical, things that when you have more pain, or you're having a day where it's maybe getting in the way of you wanting to do the thing or doing the things that you want to do, are there little things that you kind of go back to have that moment of happiness that are available to you no matter how you're feeling?
Yeah, I like to belly breathe for 5 minutes, which has taken me probably 2 years to get into. I have really struggled with it. I know Brene Brown talked about it, and then I was seeing a chronic illness therapist for a long time who was like, you need to do this. And someone else was telling about it. So there were enough people telling me that it was amazing and I needed to do it, but it was really, really hard for me. I just kind of slowly kept at it, and now I have fallen in love with it. And so when I do that, that really grounds me. And secondly, after that, I have a voice memo on my phone where I have recorded those non-negotiables for my life, and kind of a manifesto about myself and what I want my life to look like, but it's recorded as if it's already happened. So it is like, Allyn lives with her husband and 3 healthy kids, and, has da-da-da-da-da. So I listen to that and I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I'm going. This is going to happen. And it just kind of brings me back to life a little bit, as opposed to just my brain spiraling out into, chronic pain land, where it can oftentimes go when things get rough.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that the belly breathing thing is so hard, because I feel like I've had that issue too, where I don't know if it's the amount of time or it's just like, because I can do physical activity stuff that's really hard for more than 5 minutes and not feel like I can't do it. Whereas the belly breathing for some reason feels really difficult. What makes it difficult, or what has made it difficult for you that you had to overcome?
That's a great question. It's kind of a combo of just getting my brain to really shut down, but also getting, my diaphragm to really release and like fully getting air down there. In, my journey, I've found that my pelvis and, my lower diaphragm, like it is just wound so tight like a rock. And so I would be practicing this and be like, nothing's happening. Like I'm not able to kind of get air down there. And so that's why it's also taken a really long time to loosen things up and be able to get air. So for a long time, I felt like I was doing it wrong. Nothing was happening. But I just kind of had to stay the course, I think. But yeah, trying to get my mind to be quiet.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that a lot of people listening probably experience. And again, it sounds so simple, 5 minutes of belly breathing, like how hard could it be? But then when you actually start doing it, it's because I've been there too. I've had pelvic floor hypertonicity, I guess is how they describe it. And so having to do those practices, it's amazing. Like I'd rather do 5 minutes of like kettlebell swings or something than 5 minutes of belly breathing. So I don't know why it's so difficult, but it sounds like it's been something that's really benefited you.
For sure. Yeah. It's nice that it's mobile. Like I can do it in my car, I had a doctor's appointment last week that for some reason I got nervous before, and it's like, I have a few minutes. I'm just going to do this before or whatever, you can take it on the go. And it's just a nice little tool to have in my arsenal of things to kind of calm me down when I need.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn here, but I know that you've mentioned before that there's a faith element to your story. So how has your experience with chronic pain affected your faith and the way it is now?
Yes, definitely. I, grew up in a family that wasn't overtly not religious, but, we'd go on Christmas and that was kind of it. A lot of my friends grew up in religious families, so I was exposed to it, but kind of along going through my journey, I think I had a lot of resentment towards the Lord, because a lot of times I would pray for help or for, I would go in for a test and say, please let this show something. I know this is going to show something. And every single time there was nothing there. And so I had quite a bit of angst for a really long time and had a really hard time kind of even thinking about, going to church or being open to reading the Bible or anything like that. And then I think there kind of came a time, it wasn't until I was out of college, so it was pretty far into my journey, that I just kind of realized I cannot keep walking this journey alone. And I have amazing support from my family and my friends. But one day I just ended up in a church down the street from my house, and I totally fell in love with it. And I just felt really, really connected to it. And I felt like, there was a song playing, and it's totally like the theme of my life, I feel like. And it is goodness running after me. And that song has played throughout. So like, it just comes up all the time now, but that was playing. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like my story with the Lord, because it's extremely true that throughout my whole journey, like he has been pursuing me, even though I have been turning my back to him at just about every turn. And that has just shown up in a lot of different ways. And so I definitely accepted him at that time. I became baptized again. I was baptized when I was a baby, but for real, really committed at that time. Yeah. Became baptized and has been, a believer ever since, which has been amazing. and really got into that. And that has totally just given me something to, lean into during the hard times. And it's this weird thing. Like, I get this resounding whenever I have fears or doubts, or I'm going into a procedure or something and I'm nervous, I get this voice that it just says, like, lay it down. And it's this weird thing, like, I get all the time. And it is like the Lord just telling me to lay down my fears and lay down everything that's on my mind. And it has all, always worked out. And I know that He's always been there for me. And it's been pretty cool to see how He's played such a strong role in my life, even despite me, not recognizing it for many years and pushing it away for many years. But, I think that I definitely had to come to it on my own. I had to go deep and dark, during that depression, anxiety phase. I know that I had to come out of that and find my way out of that on my own in order to find Him on my own, for sure. It's something that I know I had to walk through in order to be where I am today, for sure.
And how do you think that changed? So going from resenting God and maybe feeling like God wasn't taking care of you or wasn't, supplying your needs, that kind of thing. Going from that to feeling like God was with you, even in the situations where maybe there wasn't an answer provided, or you still are having the symptoms. How has that changed your perspective on your chronic illness and what's possible for you in your life, with or without, like, because, I feel like from a faith perspective, we never want to say, oh, you're guaranteed to have this issue forever, because God can do anything, right? So it's like, why put Him in a box and say, you can't heal this? But there's also the perspective of saying, like, can we still love God even if He doesn't do the things we want Him to do, or He doesn't heal us in the way that we want to be healed? So is there any tangible way that you feel like your experience with your chronic illness has shifted since you got saved and kind of reconciled yourself to God in that way?
Yeah, I think that is, around the time that I was having huge mindset shifts. I never feel that I felt like a victim from my illness, but I feel like around that time is when I became truly empowered by my illness. And I was like, holy crap, this is my calling. And I felt all the puzzle pieces were coming together, and it totally was making sense to me why I had gone through this and why I was going through this. I knew that He had been preparing me for a life of using, my illness for a reason and for helping other people. And so, I agree. I don't know His plans, for the future for me and for my illness and any of that. But I do know that He gave me this and He is calling me to use it to help other people. And that's kind of where I'm running with it right now.
That's a really awesome perspective. I feel like it's not one that a lot of people take.
Yeah.
It's more of something that He gave you rather than something that you have to deal with or something like that.
Yeah. I just did a post yesterday on my social media just about the idea that with your illness, you're actually given a lot and you get to choose to recognize it or not, and we've talked about it a little bit, but you're given resiliency, you're given wisdom, you're given compassion, you're given empathy. And I know that I've been given that. It's night and day who I am pre-illness. And now, granted, I was very young at the time as well, but you change and you can choose to recognize it and accept it or not. But it's quite a gift to realize what comes from your illness, even though you figure it out the hard way. It's not the easy way, that's for sure, but it's still a great gift that you're given.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I know that you recently kind of rebranded or have this new name for your website and your social media handles called Doing It Despite. So what inspired that name?
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. Again, like I said, throughout all of this, have remained fairly positive. I've had my days for sure, but I have always tried to keep a pretty level head with all this and try to just continue on. And I've never considered stopping or considered not pursuing things. again, I started at such a young age, and I never considered not going to college. And then I never considered not getting a job. And then, just things that you do in life, I never considered not trying or not, going for it just because of my illness. And so it became kind of my mantra, I guess, in going through all of this, is that I'm going to do it despite what I have going on. And it just stuck. And it is kind of this whole way of life that despite whatever challenge you have, whatever illness you have, and it transcends to people without illnesses as well, whatever challenge you have, the whole idea of living your life and doing it despite whatever is going on, because there's more out there. You're called to more, you're made for more, and there's more out there. And so that is the whole idea. And it's been super cool to see, the community is slowly growing, and to see how people all over the world are kind of taking that and running with it and applying it to their own stories. But it's super empowering if you can reframe your illness or whatever, your struggle in that way, as something that isn't going to hold you back. It's something that can kind of push you and propel you forward.
And with this business, like who's your ideal client, or who's the kind of person that you like to work with when you're helping them do things despite?
Yes. I primarily work with women. Lots of times women with chronic illnesses, obviously diagnosed, undiagnosed, either way. I've been undiagnosed a fair share of my journey, so I fully understand what that is like as well. I've been misdiagnosed, so I don't put any real parameters on that. As long as you are empowered to make a change, or you have, you feel like there's more out there for you, then I would love to work with you. I think, you don't have to have everything in a row. That's where I come in. I come in to believe in you. I come in to hold you accountable, to help you believe in yourself and see what's possible. As long as, you have an inkling towards there being more for you in your life than your illness, those are the kind of women that I like to work with.
That's really awesome. Because I feel like so many people that have illnesses, they're always looking for help with the physical results, right? They're always looking for someone who can solve the pain, or solve the digestive issue, or, solve the hormonal issue, whatever it is that's creating that chronic issue. There's so much emphasis on fixing the health problem rather than, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. Trust me when I say that, like, if somebody can get help with that, that's great. And I feel like there's this extra element that you're talking about here where, the mindset and the ability to pursue the life that you want, and the dreams that you have, and the things that you like. If you did have a magic wand and you could just poof away the illness, what would you do with your life? And, what would that look like? And like you said, maybe there's things that they won't look the same because of the illness, or they'll take longer, or they'll just be different than they would have been without the illness. But I think it's really awesome that you're showing people, and women in general with chronic illnesses, that they can pursue their dreams and they can do things despite being sick or having pain, that kind of thing. And that there's no reason that their life needs to revolve just around their illness or fixing their illness.
For sure. Yeah. And I also, just like, you're mentioning, just like to be support or an advocate or a mentor, any of that. I've come in contact with a lot of women as well who they don't have the support. It's an invisible illness. They're not walking around with a cast on their arm. And that makes things oftentimes way harder. As much as your family wants to understand what you're going through, it's really hard. And, your friends, it's really hard to explain why you can't show up to things. And as long as I can be there, I understand what you're going through. I think that's a big difference as well. And a big reason why I fell into this area of work is that I never came in contact with anyone, to my knowledge, who had anything similar to what I was dealing with. I have had phenomenal medical care, but it's very different to work with someone who knows when you say I have this aching joint pain, and someone who knows like what that feels like, as opposed to someone who doesn't, and just those things, or who knows like how it actually feels internally to not be able to make it to your friend's birthday party or things like that. So that's another component to what I like to do, is just help women to be an emotional support, but also navigate the medical system and learn to advocate for themselves, because a lot of times I think we feel shame and we feel guilt and don't know how to properly speak up for ourselves in those situations.
Well, it's so awesome, Allyn, what you're doing. And I love that you've taken the experience that you've had over the last, what did we say, 15 years that you've been dealing with this and being able to turn it into something that, like, I can see the excitement on your face when you're talking about it, and just the ability to use that as a way to serve others and to make a difference in the world, I just think is really, really cool and a really needed service. Because again, there's so many people out there that are focusing on let's fix the health problem and not really thinking about, like, okay, while you're working on that, there's other things that are important for your happiness, for your life, like just for things that go beyond the physical, and being able to work on that with someone who has had that experience and does know how they feel is, I'm sure, so valuable to people. So for anyone who would be interested in learning more about you, about the work you do, about your philosophy and your perspective, where can they find you?
Yes, my website, doingitdespite.com, is the main place. There's a contact form there where you can get in touch with me, but also on Instagram as well, if you want to look me up there, which is at doingitdespite. Those are the two main ones, and they're both linked to my email as well.
Awesome. And do you have any final words for our audience that you'd like to share?
I would just say keep going. You guys are all worth it. You guys are all made of something amazing, and you're all incredibly gifted and worth pursuing what's in your heart and soul. So keep going, keep pushing, and the universe loves you, that's for sure.
Well, thank you again, Allyn, for sharing your expertise. And thanks to those of you who are hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes or so. And we'll be excited to see you here on the Fed and Fearless podcast next week. Take care, everybody.
Are you a dietitian or nutritionist business owner that wants to create an online business that attracts, converts, and serves your dream clients? Then keep listening, because I have a special opportunity that will help you create the profitable, joy-filled nutrition business that you always wanted. In my signature group coaching program, the Nutrition Business Accelerator, you'll learn how to start, grow, and scale your online nutrition business to 6 figures and beyond, so you can experience the financial and time freedom that you desire. Inside the program, you'll learn how to attract high-paying clients who are excited to work with you and willing to pay you the rates you deserve. You'll get training on how to effectively sell your services in a way that feels authentic and converts prospects into paying clients without feeling pushy or salesy. And you'll get step-by-step instructions on how to create programs and services that provide transformative results, leading to glowing testimonials and referrals from your current clients, so you can have the greater impact that you desire in the world around you. You'll also learn how to manage your time, energy, and resources, so you can get more done in less time and experience the time freedom that you started your business to experience. Want to make this your reality? The Nutrition Business Accelerator is your pathway to achieve all of this and more. Get the proven strategy that has helped dozens of business owners grow their online nutrition business to $5,000 and $10,000 months and beyond. Inside the program, you'll get mentorship and guidance from me, a compassionate coach who's built her own multi-6-figure online nutrition business. So that way you never have to feel stuck in your business again. I created this program to help struggling dietitian and nutrition entrepreneurs get clarity on who they serve, how they serve them, and how they can stand out in a crowded market so they can more easily attract dream high-paying clients into their online nutrition business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, go to lauraschoenfeldrd.com/NBA to learn more about the program and get on the wait list. That's lauraschoenfeldrd.com/NBA, which is short for Nutrition Business Accelerator. Doors are opening soon, and you don't want to miss out on this one-of-a-kind business coaching opportunity. Let's accelerate your nutrition business together. I'll see you in the program.